Works that prove saving faith. And I quote, this is a definition. Works that prove saving faith are all righteous behaviors that conform to God's revealed word. Works that prove saving faith are all righteous behaviors that conform to God's revealed word. You see, James was the brother of Jesus. Friend, listen today. Works are not just about what you do. The works of which he refers to are as much to do with how you live. James watched his brother Jesus, how he lived. He did not steal from others. He honored his father and mother. He did not take the name of the Lord his God in vain. He did not commit adultery. He did not desecrate the Sabbath. He kept it holy. On the Lord's day, he was in church, worshiping. He did not covet his neighbor's wife or his neighbor's house or his neighbor's boat. What was James doing here? James, my beloved friends, was exposing the notion that saving faith is a mere intellectual exercise, void of active obedience. And I think what he does here, in exposing this notion that to be a Christian is just an intellectual exercise that has nothing to do with active obedience. What James does here for people like you and me, he establishes our identity. He removes the crisis. And he gives to us what I consider to be the three essentials of faith. They write here in this passage. Here are the three essentials of faith. Number one, it begins with faith. Look what he says. He uses, one of the illustrations he uses is of Abraham. The Jewish people understood that. They had such a high regard for Abraham. He was a wonderful man. And so James invokes this in this Jewish audience as an illustration. And in verse 23, he makes it very clear that Abraham believed God. That's the means by which he was counted as righteous. Saving faith begins with faith. That's the first essential of faith. It's the beginning. That's where you trust him, where you give your heart and life to him. The second essential of saving faith is it's combining that faith with love. Look at verse 22. You see that his faith and his actions were working together. So watch this, folks. If you're going to talk about how to fit works, what we do, into who we are and who we know as Christians, where does my works come into this? How do I know that what I'm doing is because of who I am? This is what I've got to do. I've got to go back to the beginning. My beginning faith. This is the first essential. I repented of my sin. I confessed my sin. That's the beginning, because that's what counts when I trust him. Works have nothing to do with that. Paul said in Ephesians 2:8-9, you and I are saved by grace through faith, not of works, lest we should boast about it. That's beginning. That's the starting point. The moment we trust him, It has nothing to do with any work. It has nothing to do with going to church or giving money to the poor or going on a mission trip or doing random acts of kindness. Coming to know Christ is when I put my faith and trust. I confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. I believe in my heart that God raised Jesus from the dead, and I am saved. That's saving faith. That's the beginning. The moment I trust Him, the Spirit of God comes into me, and now we get to the second essential of saving faith. It combines with love. That's what he talks about in verse 22. This word here, working together. You see, the active ingredient of my faith is the love of God. And when I receive the love of God begins to constrain me. It combines with the action of what I need to do because Christ loves me. Now that's a spiritual thing that begins to happen. And it leads to the third essential of saving faith, which means it proves with works. It proves. That's why he says here in this passage, you're not saved by your works, but your works prove that you are saved. You know, Paul speaking in Galatians, he uses that great word fruit. Like you, I love fruit. You know, people say often, how can you tell if that's a fruit tree? Well, just check out the fruit. And then pick some of that fruit, taste it, and it's tasty. You say, yes, that is a fruit tree. It's bearing fruit. And what he's saying, number one, you say you're a fruit tree? You do? Well, show me the fruit. If there's no fruit, there's no tree. You might be saying that you're a fruit tree, but you're not. In other words, your fruit is absolutely essential to prove exactly who it is that you say you are. If there's no fruit, you ain't. I know it doesn't sound the same when I say it, but that still means the same. It's an incredible thing. Begins with faith, combines with love, and it proves with works.